There are some guns out there that are absolutely worthless, and I'm going to give you 7 of them today. Now, this, of course, is just my opinion, but I just want to tell you guns that do not fit a specific role, or they're supposed to be for a specific purpose, and they just don't fit it well, and maybe some better alternatives to them. So the goal is not to trash any of these guns. Some of them I still want to own, but I can also recognize that on the surface and for the most part, they are actually pretty much worthless. Let's go and get into it. Now, PCCs and PDWs are fantastic guns. They have some limitations, but if you take something like this Chris Vector right here, which I think serves more of a purpose for home defense, obviously going to the range and stuff like that, but this is a really fantastic home defense type of gun. But then you have something like the Scorpion 3 Plus carbine, which is the size of a full-length rifle, except it's in an inferior pistol caliber. Now, if I'm going competition shooting, again, maybe even home defense, and obviously teaching somebody range, all that kind of stuff, it fits really well. But anything intermediate and beyond that, and let's say intermediate is 100 yards and beyond, this is really not going to do a lot of good for me. At that point, I really need a rifle. And while it does have a folding stock, it's still going to be kind of a stretch to fit it into a backpack if I use it as a survival gun, let's say. Now, it is something I could use as a truck gun, but if I have my pistol that I'm already carrying, if I need to go to something like this, more than likely I'm going to want to have a rifle. Now, let me just say, I own this gun. I love this gun. And so for me to sit here and say it's absolutely worthless, well, it's just one of those things. I recognize it as more of a competition trainer and just a really fun plinker at the range, less so as something that I would probably reach for in a serious self-defense situation. More than likely, I'm going to be reaching for a rifle over something like this. Now, that doesn't go for all PCCs, specifically like the Vector I showed you, or, even your MP5s or your Strybogs. Ones that, especially that you have in a pistol brace attached to, the overall length is so short, and then you can get ones that are side folders, which will then really allow that package to be compact. So you can see the clear difference here in the size. If I'm going to have a pistol caliber, then I want it to be as small as possible, and obviously having the brace is super beneficial, but at the same time, I just don't think that the CZ Scorpion carbine anyways is one of those guns that I would call like overly practical. I think if you're going to get a Scorpion, going with the pistol and then SBR in it or doing a brace would be more beneficial than the actual carbine version of the gun. Now we're still on the subject of PCCs, and I promise you after this one we'll get off of it and go to some pistols, but I have to mention one that I saw earlier, and no, it's not the FPC. This is for reference. This is the High Point carbine in 30 Super Carry. It runs into the same issues I just talked about with the Scorpion here, and while it's more of a budget option, the points are still the same. It's got a decent set of backup sights. It's got a 16.5-inch barrel. It's like 6.5 pounds. It doesn't have a folding stock, so now it's even a little more worthless, in my opinion. And it has one of the worst triggers I've ever felt, and it's probably the least ergonomic gun or anything I've ever put in my hand straight up. But this one was even a little more worthless because it was chambered in 30 Super Carry. Not because of the round, because they didn't take advantage of what the round's really good at. It's the only modern round that was made for self-defense. And if you take like the Shield Plus and the Shield and 30 Super Carry, you get 3 additional rounds in that gun. So not only do you get ballistics that are similar to 9mm, but you get additional capacity. Well, in their High Point carbine, 30 Super Carry, it's 10 rounds. In their 9mm, it's 10 rounds as well. Now, at first, the very first thing that popped in my head, I was thinking, okay, they're doing this for compliance reasons, so they just have to make one rifle that can go from California to South Carolina to Florida, wherever. But that doesn't make sense either, because the restrictive states, if you will, don't allow pistol grips, and that one clearly has a pistol grip. So why they decided to go that route, I have no idea. So it's a heavy PCC that doesn't fold. Caliber you're going to be paying 2 or 3 times more for, and you don't get the benefits or all the benefits of that caliber. The most unergonomic gun I've ever put in my hands. For that reason, the high point carbine in 30 Super Carry especially is one I would say is absolutely worthless. Now here's another one that's absolutely worthless, the Desert Eagle. You're talking about a gun that can be upwards of 4.5 pounds essentially in a handgun. You know, of course you can get them in multiple different chamberings, 44 Magnum, 50 AE, whatever, but at the end of the day, this is pretty much a useless gun to have around. You're not going to train anybody on it. It's way too big to carry. It's way too heavy to carry. It's almost the weight of some rifles or PCCs out there. It's expensive to shoot. It's got an AR-15 style bolt in this thing. I mean, and it's low capacity at that. And it is a massive freaking gun. Now, do I want one? Absolutely. But that doesn't negate the fact that it is essentially worthless. If you want a big bore anything, go with a revolver. These things are uber reliable. They're not going to be nearly as heavy. I mean, this one right here is like 2 pounds, 9 ounces. So it is heavier, but at the same time, you could get a multitude of different chamberings in these things that are, you know, way less expensive too, especially if you go with like 357 Magnum, you could shoot 38 Special, you know, same with 44 Magnum, 44 Special. This to me makes more sense practically than a Desert Eagle ever would. Now I dropped a video talking about the past 100 years of concealed carry, and while we've come a long way with that, there's still some guns out there that are basically the same as they were even 150 years ago. The one I'm talking about specifically is the Derringer. Now you can get these things in a wide variety of different calibers and prices. I mean, some of the ones from Bond Arms are really cool. They can be fairly expensive. You can get, you know, North American Arms makes some pretty cool ones. And while I wouldn't totally discount these as a backup option completely, I would say it's not the best backup option. And this is another one that I would not mind owning, but at the end of the day, if you're going to carry a backup gun, carry a decent backup gun. As opposed to a 2-shot revolver or even a 22 from North American Arms. Depending upon your comfort level, I mean, you could carry an LCP Max that has 10 rounds of 380. You know, a Bodyguard or something like that, that at least gets you up to that minimum threshold of concealed carry with 380, although it's not the most ideal self-defense round. At least in that case, you have a semi-auto. You can carry a spare magazine even, and with a backup you generally don't do that, but it does give you that capability nonetheless. And let's be honest, with some Derringers, you got to be really careful with those guns, and their hammers are, you know, kind of hard to manipulate. The whole gun is very small, and so for that reason, I would say as a backup option, Derringers can be used, but in my opinion, it's not something I would ever recommend. And in that case, I think they're kind of worthless, to be honest with you. It's time to talk about AR-15 style shotguns. At least my experience up to this point, the two that I have tried to review have been garbage. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the name of the companies because I never even got that far to making an actual review. I tried both of them. Neither one of them ran reliably. I felt like it was one of those things, either I had to run a specific spring with a specific brass, either high or low brass, you know, maybe not, I can't use this magazine or whatever. Either way, both reviews that I've tried to do on AR-15 pattern shotguns, I've tried to send those guns back, and I have yet to get a response from either company about just simply sending them back. Again, I'm not going to call these companies out, but all you need to know is that with the influx of Turkish shotguns that we've been getting over the years, this is a gun I would stay away from. If you want a good shotgun, buy yourself a Benelli, a Mossberg, a Remington, a Smith & Wesson M&P 12. At this point, I would recommend a Keltec KSG as opposed to anything that I've seen that's an AR pattern shotgun. I mean, these things were just awful, man. Awful. They just jammed up constantly. I could not get them to run correctly. And so for that case, I think they're absolutely worthless. Go with a pump action, go with a reputable manufacturer, and you will not be sorry, I can assure you. They may not look as cool, but I promise you, a shotgun is such a vital tool to have in your arsenal. It's not something that you want to be fumbling around with just because, another company claims, oh, you can fit 102 rounds into this gun. I'm being facetious, but you know what I'm saying. At the end of the day, get something reputable. And it doesn't have to be a traditional shotgun. Like I said, some of your bullpup style shotguns, especially the M&P 12, has been really solid for me personally. So that may be a cool option. It's a cool shotgun, and you get the benefits of a real home defense shotgun. Don't mess around with any of the AR-15 style, at least in my experience. Now here's one I thought I'd never put in a video like this, and worthless is a very harsh word, and if it wasn't for this video, I would not use the word worthless to describe this gun. So let me just go ahead and say that. But if I'm being completely honest with y'all, the M1 carbine is completely worthless to own in today's age. Let me explain. This is one of my most beloved guns, okay? And I know you're like, dude, this guy's so full of crap. Well, this is a tough one, but I had to be really honest with myself when I was making this video. This is a gun that has a bunch of history. World War II, I've gone through this entire gun, every single piece on this gun, to authentically date it. And, because there's so many manufacturers that made these, it's really an impressive feat. How many companies came together from Winchester to GM and everybody in between, including IBM. Yeah, that IBM actually helped make these guns for the United States during World War II. It was an incredible effort. And so with all that said, you have to understand where I'm coming from with this video, because the biggest detriment to this gun in today's age is the round. The .30 carbine is extremely expensive. Think about this round as a 357 Magnum essentially is the ballistics that you're going to get. So it's not too bad there, but the problem is it is just so expensive. I mean, it is essentially $1 a round. Now you may be thinking, oh, well, yeah, it's only got iron sights and all that kind of stuff. I'm actually fine with that. This thing is so accurate. It's so light. I mean, look how cool this thing is. I absolutely love it. I love taking it to the range. I love everything about it. It's just so damn expensive. It's kind of worthless to buy one of these, especially when you can buy something like this right here, an SKS. So you're going to get those same benefits. It doesn't have a detachable magazine. At least this one doesn't. You can get sporterized ones that do. But you still get that same old school wooden steel gun that's just built really well. This one's actually a Russian example. And I really love this thing. And this is that post-World War II type of technology that, until the AK-47 came out, I mean, this gun really just didn't have a solid place, but it's kind of, made its way onto the scene because of how cheap these things used to be and how reliable they are. But the biggest thing for this gun and what it has going for it is the 7.62 by 39. It's still so prevalent that it makes this gun not only fun to shoot, not only effective at range, but you can shoot it and not totally break the bank because the cost of that ammo is still really good. So if I had to break it down and I said, should you get an M1 carbine or an SKS? As much as I love the M1 carbine, this is way more practical in use in today's age to buy. And the last gun I'm going to talk about is actually the Glock 43. Now, if you know my channel and you know anything about me, you know that the 43X is not my favorite gun. I think it's a little bit too long for the amount of rounds that you get. With that being said, I respect people that carry anything every single day, and while the 43X is out, the 43 has just kind of lost its place. Now, I could say the same about the 42, but to me, the 42 is a fantastic backup option, and if you want to carry a 380, the 380 to carry most of the time, and what I'll recommend is the 42 because it's a fantastic option. It's big enough to shoot really well, but it's small enough to EDC, especially for anybody that's a lighter frame. The 43 though, you lose 4 rounds compared to the 43X, and I just think it is just a gun that's kind of just there in Glock's lineup now. If you want to carry something that's a little bit bigger and a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier, go with a 26. It's going to give you the same round capacity as a 43X, but it's going to be much shorter than a 43X at that, and you have the mag compatibility with the 17, 19, so on and so forth. So in my opinion, the Glock 43 specifically is kind of worthless to buy now. It's not just the 43, let me go ahead and re-emphasize that, but it is one that comes to mind as just kind of lost its way in 2023 going into 2024, especially when the P365 came out, but that gun kind of put a lot of other guns out of commission. So that's it, man. That's my opinion. So I'd love to hear yours now. What do you think about my list? Leave your own list. I may use some of those in a part 2. And if you like what I do, consider subscribing. Or you could join us on Patreon or join the channel right here and never have to leave YouTube and get some pretty cool perks. Big thanks to you guys for your support. See you in the next one. And as always, hold 'em down.